Shalom, I'm Ina Lee, and today I am reading from Joshua 22 through 24. Then Joshua summoned the Reubenites, Gadites, and half-tribe of Manasseh, and said to them, "You have kept all that Moses, the servant of Adonai, commanded you, and have listened to my voice in all that I commanded you. You have not abandoned your kinsmen these many days to this day, but have kept the charge of the commandment of Adonai your God. So now Adonai your God has given rest to your kinsmen, as he said to them. So now turn and go to your tents, to the land that is your possession, which Moses the servant of Adonai gave you beyond the Jordan. Only be very careful to observe the mitzvah and the Torah which Moses the servant of Adonai commanded you, to love Adonai your God and walk in all his ways, and to keep his mitzvah. Cling to him and worship him with all your heart and with all your soul." So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. Now to the 1/2 tribe of Manasseh Moses had given inheritance in Bashan, but to the other half Joshua gave territory among their kinsmen to the west of the Jordan. Moreover, when Joshua sent them away to their tents, he blessed them and spoke to them, saying, "Return to your tents with great wealth and with very much cattle, with silver, gold, bronze, iron, and with very many clothes. Share the spoil of your enemies with your brothers." So the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh returned and departed from Bnei Israel at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, to go to the land of Gilead, to the land of their inheritance that they had possessed, according to the mouth of Adonai by Moses' hand. Now when they came to the region near the Jordan in the land of Canaan, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh built there an altar by the Jordan, a large, conspicuous altar. Then Bnei Israel heard about it and said, "Behold, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have built an altar opposite the land of Canaan, in the region of the Jordan, across from Bnei Israel." And when Bnei Israel heard of it, the whole congregation of Bnei Israel assembled at Shiloh to go up against them in war. So Bnei Israel sent word to the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh into the land of Gilead, Phinehas, son of Eleazar the Cohen, and with him 10 chieftains, one chieftain from each ancestral house of each of the tribes of Israel. Every one of them was the head of his ancestral house among the thousands of Israel. So they came to the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh in the land of Gilead, and spoke with them, saying, "Thus says the whole congregation of Adonai, what is this treachery that you have committed today against the God of Israel, by turning away from following Adonai, building yourselves an altar, rebelling this day against Adonai? Is the iniquity of Peor too little for us, from which we have not cleansed ourselves to this day, although a plague came on the congregation of Adonai, that you would turn away this day from following Adonai? Now you rebel against Adonai today. Tomorrow he will be angry with the whole congregation of Israel. If, however, the land of your possession is unclean, then cross over to the land of the possession of Adonai, where Adonai's tabernacle stands. Acquire holdings among us, but do not rebel against Adonai or against us by building an altar for yourselves, other than the altar of Adonai our God. Did not Achan, son of Zerah, act unfaithfully concerning the things under the ban? And so wrath fell on the entire community of Israel. Nor did that man perish alone in his iniquity. Then the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh answered, and spoke to the heads of the thousands of Israel. God of gods is Adonai. God of gods is Adonai. He knows, and may Israel itself know, if we acted in rebellion or in treachery against Adonai, don't spare us this day. If we have built an altar to turn away from following Adonai, or if it was to offer burnt offering or grain offering on it, or to offer sacrifices of fellowship offerings on it, let Adonai himself require it. But we have done this rather out of anxious concern, for a reason, saying, in the future your children might say to our children, what have you to do with Adonai, God of Israel? For Adonai has made the Jordan a border between us and you. You children of Reuben and children of Gad, you have no share in Adonai, so your children may make our children stop fearing Adonai. Therefore we said, let's now build an altar for ourselves, not for burnt offering or for sacrifice, but as a witness between us and you, and between our generations after us, so that we may do the service of Adonai before him with our burnt offerings, with our sacrifices, and with our fellowship offerings. Then your children may not say to our children in times to come, you have no share in Adonai. Therefore we said, if they say such to us or to our future generations, then we will say, see the replica of the altar of Adonai, which our fathers made, not for burnt offering or sacrifice, but as a witness between us and you. Far be it from us that we should rebel against Adonai and turn away this day from following Adonai by building an altar for burnt offering, for grain offering, or for sacrifice, besides the altar of Adonai our God that stands before his tabernacle. So when Phinehas the Kohen and leaders of the congregation, the heads of the thousands of Israel who were with him, heard the words that the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the children of Manasseh spoke, it pleased them well. So Phinehas, son of Eleazar the Kohen, said to the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and the children of Manasseh, today we know that Adonai is in the midst of us, because you have not committed this treachery against Adonai. Now you have delivered Bnei Israel from the hand of Adonai. Then Phinehas, son of Eleazar the Kohen, and the leaders returned from the children of Reuben and from the children of Gad, from the land of Gilead to the land of Canaan, to Bnei Israel, and brought back a report to them. The report pleased Bnei Israel, and Bnei Israel blessed God. And they did not speak of going up against them in war, to destroy the land in which the children of Reuben and the children of Gad were living. So the children of Reuben and the children of Gad named the altar, for it is a witness between us that Adonai is God. Okay. Chapter 23. Now it came about after many days, when Adonai had given rest to Israel from all their enemies around them, and Joshua was old and advanced in years, that Joshua summoned all Israel, their elders, their heads, their judges, and their officials, and said to them, I have grown old and am advanced in years. Now you have seen all that Adonai your God has done to all these nations because of you. For it was Adonai your God who was fighting for you. Behold, I have allotted to you as an inheritance, according to your tribes, these nations that remain, along with all the nations that I have cut off, from the Jordan to the great sea, toward the setting of the sun. So Adonai your God, he himself will thrust them out before you, and drive them from before you, so you will possess their land, just as Adonai your God spoke to you. Be very resolute to keep and do all that is written in the book of the Torah of Moses, so that you may not turn aside from it to the right or the left, and not intermingle with these nations who are still remaining among you. Do not mention the name of their gods, or swear by them, or worship them, or bow down to them, but cling to Adonai your God, as you have done to this day. For Adonai has driven out from before you great and mighty nations. As for you, no one remains standing before you to this day. One of you can put 1,000 to flight, for Adonai your God, he himself is fighting for you, just as he said to you. For your own sake, therefore, be most mindful to love Adonai your God. For if you ever go back and cling to the remnant of these nations that are still remaining among you, and intermarry with them, and you associate with them, and they with you, know for certain that Adonai your God will no longer drive these nations out from before you. Instead, they will become a snare and a trap for you, a scourge in your sides and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land which Adonai your God has given you. Now today I am about to go the way of all the earth. You will know with all your heart and with all your soul that not one word of the good things which Adonai your God spoke concerning you has failed to happen. All of them have come to pass for you. Not one word has failed. Now it will be that just as all good things which Adonai your God has spoken to you have come upon you, so all the evil things will Adonai bring upon you, until he has wiped you off this good land, which Adonai your God has given you. When you transgress the covenant of Adonai your God, which he commanded you, and go worship other gods and bow down to them, then will the anger of Adonai burn against you, and you will perish quickly off this good land which he has given you. Chapter 24. Then Joshua assembled all the tribes of Israel to Shechem and summoned Israel's elders, heads, judges, and officials. So they presented themselves before God. Then Joshua said to all the people, Thus says Adonai, God of Israel, from ancient time your fathers, Terah, the father of Abraham, and the father of Nahor, lived beyond the river and worshipped other gods. Then I took your father Abraham from beyond the river and led him through the entire land of Canaan and multiplied his offspring. I gave him Isaac, then to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. To Esau I gave Mount Seir to possess it as his own. But Jacob and his children went down to Egypt. So I sent Moses and Aaron, and I plagued Egypt with what I did in its midst, and afterward I brought you out. I brought your fathers out of Egypt. When you came to the sea, the Egyptians pursued your fathers to the Sea of Reeds with chariots and horsemen. But when they cried out to Adonai, he put darkness between you and the Egyptians. Then he brought the sea upon them, and it covered them, and your eyes saw what I did to the Egyptians. Then you stayed in the wilderness for a long time. Then I brought you to the land of the Amorites, who were living beyond the Jordan. Though they fought against you, I gave them into your hand, and you possessed their land, when I destroyed them from before you. Then Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, rose and fought against Israel. He even sent and called for Balaam, son of Beor, to curse you. But I refused to listen to Balaam. Instead, he had to keep blessing you. Thus I delivered you from his hand. Then you crossed over the Jordan and came to Jericho, but the men of Jericho fought against you. The Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgasites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. But I delivered them into your hand. Then I sent the hornet before you, and it drove them out from before you, the 2 kings of the Amorites, not by your sword or your bow. I gave you a land on which you had not labored, and cities that you had not built, and you have settled in them, vineyards and olive groves that you have not planted, that you are eating. Now, therefore, fear Adonai and worship him in sincerity and truth. Get rid of the gods that your fathers had worshipped beyond the river and in Egypt, and worship Adonai. If it seems bad to you to worship Adonai, then choose for yourself today whom you will serve, whether the gods that your fathers worshipped that were beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will worship Adonai. Then the people answered and said, Far be it from us that we should forsake Adonai to worship other gods. For it was Adonai our God who brought us and our fathers up from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, and who did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us all along the way that we traveled, and among all the peoples through whose midst we passed. It was Adonai who drove out from before us all the peoples, the Amorites that lived in the land. Therefore, we also will worship Adonai, for he is our God. But Joshua said to the people, You will not be able to worship Adonai, for he is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not pardon your transgressions and your sins. If you forsake Adonai and worship foreign gods, then he will turn and do you harm and consume you after he has done good to you. But the people said to Joshua, No, for we will worship Adonai. So Joshua said to the people, You are witnesses to yourselves that you have chosen for yourselves Adonai to worship him. We are witnesses, they responded. Now therefore get rid of the foreign gods that are in your midst, and incline your hearts to Adonai, God of Israel. And the people said to Joshua, We will worship none but Adonai our God, and we will obey none but his voice. So Joshua cut a covenant with the people that day, and set for them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. Then Joshua wrote these words in a scroll of the Torah of God. Also he took a great stone and set it up there, under the oak that was by the sanctuary of Adonai. Joshua said to all the people, Behold, this stone will be a witness to us, for it has heard all the words of Adonai which he has spoken to us. So it will be a witness to you, lest you deny your God. Joshua then dismissed the people, each to his own inheritance. Now it came to pass after these things that Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of Adonai, died at the age of 110 years. So they buried him in the territory of his own portion in Timnath-Serah, which is in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. Israel worshipped Adonai all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua and had known all the work of Adonai that he had done for Israel. Joseph's bones, which Bnei Israel had brought up from Egypt, they buried in Shechem in a parcel of ground that Jacob had bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver. It became the inheritance of the children of Joseph. Then Eleazar, son of Aaron, died, and they buried him in Gibeah, which had been given to Phinehas his son in the hill country of Ephraim.